So I strongly believe that Jax is going to be pushed towards abstraction in episode 7. And I know, a lot of people have been clickbaiting this for literal years at this point, but let me explain. I don't think he will abstract fully, or if he does, stay that way for long. And I actually have really good reasoning for that. It's like literally teasing the door. The thing we haven't seen since episode 1, since the last time that someone abstracted, and putting over the OST of Queenie's abstraction over it. Like, that was diabolical. And the only other post that Glitch has used that sound on was for a post-episode 6 teaser. And honestly, between Jax looking horrified next to a picture of Kaufmo and Ribbit, the last 2 people that abstracted, and like he is straight up dissociating in the thumbnail, roughly from the POV of the door teaser that Glitch put up, I feel a lot less like the guy from Always Sunny and more like I'm actually picking up what Gooseworx is putting down. I made a video picking apart the trailer in way too much detail in case you're interested in that, link in the description. Welcome to my new place. This is the first video I'm recording here. I'm doing it with caffeine, a hope, a dream, one light, and a dog. It's chaotic. So episode 7 will likely end in a cliffhanger, considering that it used to be a longer episode that got split into what is now episode 7 and 8. And the most logical thing to include in a cliffhanger would be abstraction. I'm not really reaching there, right? Whether it's a full abstraction without fully revealing who it is or making us believe someone is abstracting, we will have to wait until March 2026 to get answers anyway, so I am having fun speculating. But that would honestly be the perfect opportunity for the show to explore what happens right before an abstraction, like on camera. Like, they've told us a bunch of stuff, but on camera, showing us the real signs, but also perhaps how you could bring someone back from the brink. So even if it would be logical for someone to abstract, why do I think it's going to be Jax? Why would Jax even abstract at all? So after episode 6, Jax is clearly in a vulnerable state of mind. His fight with Pomni clearly dislodged some feelings he couldn't quite put back, resulting into the panic attack that we saw in the bathroom of the character awards. I also have a current working theory that the squiggly eyes are just a panic attack and nothing more, and that's like a visual indicator. And I kind of feel that it's backed up by the fact that Gangle kind of had something that looked like a panic attack that we equally thought was that she was gonna abstract, and she didn't have the squiggly eyes, but maybe that's because she's wearing a mask. But speaking of masks, Jax clearly uses his funny guy persona as one, and it kind of broke quite literally during his fight with Pomni. But even if he is able to put back the pieces and put back on the mask, it will be slippery. And from personal experience, it's usually a small thing that makes it slip right back off. And I think we've seen this small thing, or at least a part of it, in the episode 7 preview from a while back. The preview shows the characters going to the beach, doing beachy activities, and generally just having fun all around. And around 40 seconds in, we see Gangle about to smash a watermelon with the baseball bat, which looks like it's a lot of fun, not gonna lie, before Zooble stops her to draw Jax's face on the watermelon, so she can smash that instead to make her feel better, which it does. But as soon as the watermelon is smashed, the camera reveals that Jax had been within earshot all this time, or at least within line of sight, so he likely saw or heard what was happening. And well, I think that the Jax we've seen in earlier episodes probably would have been completely fine, even if he cared at all, probably made a joke out of it, right? But I think post episode 6 Jax is emotionally wobbly enough for him to have realized that he really pushed everyone away. And from personal experience, it's usually the small stuff, like I said, that gets to you. Like, nobody said something mean directly to him. He was not in the presence. There was no intention to hurt him specifically. But just seeing the gesture of someone offering up your face, even if it's crudely drawn on the watermelon, to smash, and it actually cheers them up. Oof. But I also think that Gangle being the one that's being cheered up is a factor as well. So do you remember the stargazing scene in episode 5? In that scene, Ragatha directly tells Jax that maybe Gangle doesn't want to hang out with him because Jax is always mean to her, to which Jax replies,
"She likes when I'm mean to her though."
And I think he meant that. I don't think he was saying it for the bit or as an excuse for his behavior. I think he genuinely believed that to be true, and Ragatha implying otherwise caught him off guard, as if he hadn't really considered that before. Like, you can literally see him uncross his arms and taking on a more vulnerable stance when saying it as well, despite being all defensive and sulky throughout the entire conversation beforehand. Honestly, the whole scene is interesting if you want to pick apart whatever relationship Jax and Gangle have, as it's Jax that starts the whole conversation to begin with, by asking about Gangle, wondering if she's actually capable of being happy, considering her masks still break every day. He doesn't say it in a condescending or mean way, but with genuine curiosity and empathy even. Now, I don't think Jax secretly harbors feelings for Gangle and does the whole stereotypical guy bullies the girl he's crushing on thing. I actually think Gangle's emotions are just really confronting for him, likely because he has similar feelings, but doesn't want to express them. And he's hiding behind the mask, just like Gangle does. A mask that keeps breaking, just like his. And if she isn't capable of happiness, is he? Like I mentioned before, throughout the entire show, Jax is clearly using his funny guy persona as a mask to keep going, to not let things get too real. So when an adventure pops up where the whole point is to sit down and relax, you immediately see him become uncomfortable. And he says that he prefers his adventures to have a little bit of bite, which makes sense, as adrenaline and keeping yourself busy are great tools to avoid your feelings. So just sitting there and relaxing is the opposite of what he usually craves. And immediately he softens up, because there's no action to hide behind or chaos to riff off of, just like the beach scene, which I think is gonna be relevant. So in the stargazing scene, you can see that everyone is letting their guard down, finally able to breathe and relax, and Jax sees how Gangle actually seems sort of happy with Zooble. Like in every other adventure, Gangle's happiness is usually limited, and you can literally just wait for her mask to break sooner rather than later. And it's almost as if Jax doesn't ask whether she's capable of being happy, but if small moments of happiness like that count, even if you're gonna be miserable later.
Do you think Gangle is actually capable of being happy?
What?
I don't know, like her comedy mask still breaks every day.
The moment that Pomni acknowledges his question is the moment he actually starts closing off his body language, which we don't see relax until later in the conversation, which I mentioned, when Ragatha challenges him about Gangle.
I didn't think you cared about what other people like.
No, yeah, you're right, I don't.
So Jax clearly broke character, or he unmasked when he asked about Gangle, letting some parts of his vulnerable self show, and I don't think he was fully aware until he realized that answering Pomni's question here would expose his feelings even more. He scoffs, he stutters, and immediately attempts on putting back on his mask, which is something you see him do more often during the show, and I think even the more oblivious observers will clearly see some points where it's like, that doesn't seem right. But this is by far the weakest mask on moment. He usually gets wide-eyed, big smile, and resumes his antic right away like nothing happened. But now he can't even make eye contact, and he physically angles his body away from Ragatha and Pomni, literally hiding his vulnerability with his body language. The reason I'm sharing my observations about this scene in this much detail is because it really establishes how much vulnerability Jax actually hides behind his mask, and it also kind of explains what happened here.
Do you have any actual friends?
Not anymore. Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. I wasn't talking about that. That wasn't meant to be.
So Jax was clearly already feeling vulnerable. So when Ragatha said that, I imagine that what Jax heard was akin to, hey, remember that only real friend you had? And how she just died? And how it's your fault? Yeah, her, right? Well, I'm pretty sure that Ragatha was just talking about her own past relationship or friendship with Jax and being hurt by that, but he clearly was thinking about something else, really showing how much hurt and perhaps trauma he's bearing with him. Interestingly enough, though, as soon as Ragatha leaves, he kind of calms down and actually opens up a little bit more towards Pomni by sharing his feelings about Ragatha and why that bothers him, which I also think tells a lot about his character. But then he actually steps back on his mask for just a moment before getting an existential crisis about his tail.
What the? Where's my tail? How long have I not had my tail?
I'm putting a pin in that for a future video. Let's talk about abstraction itself. The reason I even started thinking about Jax abstracting wasn't the many theory videos, it wasn't even this scene specifically, or the bathroom panic attack, but it was actually because that watermelon scene that I described earlier reminded me of this scene in episode 3.
I know how it can feel in this circus. Sometimes it all just feels pointless, but it's not. Not if you have people who care about you. In this world, the worst thing you can do is make someone think they're not wanted or loved.
I have the feeling that's kind of where we're headed with Jax. Like, the cast has already established that they don't really like him being around. He's pushing everyone away, he's making them miserable, and he feels really, really alone. And while I absolutely think that what Kinga said is true overall and that can be applied to the real world, I do think he specifically meant this world as in the digital circuit. That making someone feel that way can push them towards abstracting. And let's just be real here. If abstracting is akin to dying or an allegory for it, you can abstract on accident, naturally, as well as on purpose. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat the words, but I want to prepare you for it. I do mean suicide. Even the most resilient minds become a little bit fragile when faced with having to contemplate the meaning of life, away from everything they've known, not even being able to remember their own name, which in a lot of cultures is someone's strongest tie to their humanity and who they are. So human connection is sincerely the biggest lifeline any of the circus members have, and if that falls away, what is the point of living at all? And while the show hasn't spelled out what exactly triggers abstraction. I think Ragatha in episode 1 probably sums it up perfectly, perhaps so perfectly that we as fans and theorists have been overthinking it way too much, and it's way simpler than we think.
After a while, you start to realize that you really can't leave, and constantly chasing an unattainable goal will start driving you a bit crazy. And eventually you get to asking what the point of anything is, and you completely lose sight of who you are and why you're even alive, and when you reach your breaking point, something really terrible can happen.
So, now we have established Jax's mental state and what potential triggers and parameters there are for abstraction according to the show itself. And Jax abstracting would be a reasonable conclusion. But then why do I think he isn't gonna fully abstract, or at least not stay that way? And for this, I like to get a little meta. So, you know how in a lot of popular horror movies, it generally takes over an hour before the audience finally sees the monster properly? It is to build up tension and expectation. Even in Jaws, where the whole point of the movie is that the shark is the bad guy, and the audience knows it, it still takes 82 minutes out of a 2-hour movie before you finally see the shark itself.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
That's about 2/3 into that movie, and if you take the whole runtime for the Amazing Digital Circus into account, episode 7 will be right in that ballpark. The story and characters have been telling us about the abstraction, the monster of this show, and what happens beforehand, albeit a bit vague, quite a lot. And aside from Kaufmo's abstracted form and Queenie's flashback, we have seen almost nothing of the process, almost nothing of the monster, just the aftermath. From a storytelling perspective, while you need to build up tension, you can't really keep the monster secretive and vague for too long, otherwise it kind of loses the impact and set tension. Show, not tell. And then I also have personal prediction based on patterns of shows and stories with similar tropes. Like if we boil down abstraction to a very unknown condition that permanently alters a person's mind and body, and there's no cure and it's somewhat akin to dying, I start thinking about The Last of Us, where suddenly they find a possible zombie cure, or The Vampire Diaries, where they find a cure for vampirism. All things previously thought to be permanent and uncurable, all akin to dying. And while these are not one-to-one examples, these are very popular franchises, so I hope people will understand what I'm getting at. But what I just described just makes me feel that when someone eventually will abstract, if they do, they will either be pulled back from the brink before it fully occurs, or they will be cured at some point. That way, the show can show the viewers what it's like from the point of view of the person abstracting, maybe what really happens to their minds, without committing to a permanent character death. And with the current pacing of the show and the tension of the end of episode 6, I strongly believe episode 7 is gonna start showing us all that. Maybe not right away, it's very likely part of the cliffhanger, but they will start showing it us nonetheless. But then of course, Gooseworx can just throw us a curveball and prove every single theory we all ever had wrong. Or have Ragatha abstract, I don't know. But if we follow the most logical path of someone abstracting, even if it's for storytelling purposes, I really feel that Jax as a character is being set up for this role. And regardless if I'm even remotely right, there's just no way episode 7 is going to be a happy-go-lucky beach episode. We already saw that in the teaser trailer that dropped yesterday, but I already felt that way because how could it be? I'm scared. But also, let's just not forget that the beach episode is taking place around the digital lake, the place that Caine told Pomni to go drown herself into back in episode 1.
Drown yourself in the digital lake or engage in ridery at the digital carnival!
And if you're watching this after the episode dropped, and maybe after you saw my reaction to it, because I do plan on recording that, you are more than welcome to tell me how wrong I was. But if I am right, even remotely, you have to tell me that too. Because I'm here to stay with theory content, because this is what I love doing most. And I hope you enjoy it too. Thank you so much for watching my first video, essay style video. I've been so deep in TADC lore lately, and I can't wait for episode 7 and pick that apart. But also I want to dive into the other glitch shows and other things, and I am already getting super excited for it. Anyway, if you like this and you want to support my content and want me to be able to make more of these videos, because they do take a lot more time than just a reaction video, subscribe to my Patreon. They get early access, sneak peeks, and etc. And free members, yes, the free members also get a lot of sneak peeks, etc. And you get Discord channels, a Discord role, and I am sending a lot more casual updates over there as well. So thank you all so much for watching. See you guys in the next one. Bye!